tag, they officially named him head coach. Mark says, quote, that decision was not up to Kevin. Kevin's job here is to go out and play basketball, and that's what he wants to do. Marks also says he has not talked to Kyrie or his agent since Kyrie's suspension. All right, Shannon, the drama continues. How will Jacques Vaughn work with KD and Kyrie?
Well, Sean Marks summed it up best. Kevin Durant just wants to hoop.
He did, actually. That's what you said from the start, and he just blurted it right out there. He's now free to go play basketball. He had nothing to do with this decision. There's no input. Just go play basketball.
Kevin Durant has never been an issue with a head coach. Now, although he did not want to play this season with Steve Nash,
he did not.
I don't believe he was ever openly, blatantly disrespectful towards Steve Nash. Now, I was reading, Skip, and I don't know, maybe this is a common thing, that some scout was saying that he went to a game in which the Nets were playing.
I got the story right here. Keep going.
And Steve Nash called a play, and he openly defied the play at least 10 times.
10 times in one game.
In one game.
Yep.
And so
Scout says, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Nash would call something, and he'd run just the opposite. I'd never seen anything like that. Remember, Steve Nash was a 2-time MVP in this league. Go ahead.
It says Kyrie is the unknown because, as Sean Marks said and Jacques Vaughn has said, they haven't spoken to Kyrie. So what's Kyrie's take on this? Is Kyrie going to be as disrespectful towards Jacques Vaughn as he was to Steve Nash? Is he going to defy, if I send a play in, you run what you want to run? Is that how it's going to happen? So for me, Kevin Durant is never the issue. Kyrie's always been the issue. How receptive is Kyrie going to be to coaching? So this notion that, Kyrie, no, Kyrie isn't. Kyrie said we don't need a coach. Kyrie said we're going to change the way you look at coaches. That's what he said.
Yep.
Now, if it's a lie, Kyrie told it. But that's what he said. So for me, look, Jacques Vaughn has been a head coach. Now, in Orlando, I don't know how much he was set up for success because he didn't have the level of players in Orlando that he has now with Kevin Durant. We don't know if and when Kyrie Irving is going to come back. Mm-hmm. Is he going to adhere to the guidelines in which the Nets have set forth?
Yep.
Says, okay, 5 games is a minimum. And that, he apologized and he done some of these other things. And Sean Marks said that's a start towards him coming back. Now, when is Kyrie going to come back? And if he comes back, we don't know. We don't know the timeline. He has missed 4 games. There's one more game that's on the mandatory 5-game minimum, Skip, and then I guess they'll go from there. KD was sensational last night. There's nothing else you can say about it. But KD is a great ball player, so anything that he does, I'm not surprised by it. He can do whatever he wants to do. Ben Simmons is 15-0 against the Knicks. The Knicks are not a good team. Now, they beat Utah, they beat Celtics, they beat the Nuggets, they beat the Bucks or one of these. I said, okay, Skip, man, Jacques Vaughn. Now, Jacques understands it's interim for the time being.
Yep.
He said, but hey, I'm thinking, hey, if I can do some things here and move some pieces here and there, get these guys playing well, maybe they'll remove that interim tag and I can be head coach, not the interim head coach. And he said, look, I understood my place as an assistant. Skip, so for me, and he's already, Skip, remember when they fired Kenny Atkinson?
Yeah.
He served, he filled in then as an interim head coach. So he's very familiar. He's been on this staff since 2016. He's been here since 2016.
Yep.
He's very familiar with these players.
Yep.
They know him. And sometimes, Skip, all you need is a change of voice. Maybe a different voice. It resonates a little different. Jacques Vaughn was a journeyman player. He was not Steve Nash as a player.
He's a good college player.
Yeah, very good at Kansas.
Yep.
So nobody's going to say, well, he was the equivalent of Steve Nash as a player, but he wasn't. But that's not what you necessarily need. There have been a lot of NBA coaches that weren't very good as players, and there have been some very good players that weren't very good as coaches.
Yep.
So there's not a correlation where you can say, well, he's a great player, he gonna be a great coach, or he's a bad player, he gonna be a bad. No, it doesn't work like that. But I like what Jacques Vaughn, they're playing well, Skip, but beating the Wizards and beating the Knicks, let's see when they step up in caliber of talent of teams they play, let's see if they can get the same kind of production. But I don't believe KD will be the issue. Getting Kyrie to buy in is going to be the issue.
I concur. I'm to the point I'm not completely convinced Kyrie will ever play again for the Nets. I'm not sure about that. He probably will, but I'm not completely sure about it. And then to your point, will he rebel against any coach? I don't care how good the guy is, nice a guy is, and they all love Jacques Vaughn.
Yeah.
That's all I heard from all of them after the game. He's just he's a good dude.
Right.
Kyrie is about as difficult to coach as they come because he says, I don't need a coach.
Right.
And he is a gifted basketball player, and I do think he has high basketball IQ, but he doesn't want to hear anything from his head coach.
Right.
So he becomes, to your point, the crucial X factor who could destroy all the feel good that has been rebuilt by Jacques Vaughn.
Okay.
Because we just don't know. But history would tell you it's going to be a problem for Jacques Vaughn just the way it would be for anybody.
But Skip, the thing is, if you don't listen to a two-time league MVP,
that's correct,
who played the game at the highest levels, what makes me think you're going to listen to a guy that was just a journeyman? Now, maybe he looks at Jacques Vaughn and say, you know, brother to a brother, hey, I'm going to respect you. I'm going to do the right thing.
Maybe.
But
maybe.
I ain't holding my breath.
Okay. Just one quick defense of Steve Nash. Just for the record, a year ago, that team did get to a Game 7 at home and one shot away from it's 2 years ago, sorry, but that would have beaten, obviously, the KD toenail on the line shot, would have beaten the team that was about to go win it all.
Correct.
Well, you got to give Nash a little bit of credit for that. But remember, Kyrie wasn't a part of that because he was hurt.
Yeah.
And James Harden was kind of a shell of himself. And Durant said, I got you, I got you, I got you.
Correct.
But in the end, he hit the wall. He didn't have anything left for overtime. If the shot goes in, Milwaukee goes home. Shot didn't go in, and then they just collapsed in overtime. Giannis was pretty good. Chris Middleton hit the big shot, and that was the end of that deal.
Right.
And that was effectively the end of Steve Nash. His reputation as a player, because I was around that a lot, was he was one of the great leaders in the game.
Right.
That he led the Phoenix Suns, and they were known for having a lot of road trip dinners together, like he would call everybody together for a big team dinner, a bonding experience.
Right.
And yet Nash's mind, like D'Antoni's mind, works on some other level, and it's almost mystical the way he sees basketball. And it wasn't being communicated to the locker room. I think he was just talking in circles that they couldn't understand. Mm-hmm. And I saw player after player last night say that Jacques has simplified everything. Well, I think Nash wanted to try to do things that Kyrie obviously wasn't interested in, and half of them didn't even know what he was talking about.
Correct.
So you need a new voice. You need a fresh voice. Maybe you need somebody they can better relate to, as you point out. And all that I love. Everybody says Jacques Vaughn is really a good man.
Right.
He's just easy to talk to, easy to be around, and one of the great communicators as an assistant coach. And by the way, he had a stint in Orlando for a really bad team that didn't work out because nobody could have worked that one out. Okay, so now we're back to Kevin Durant just looks different to me because he just looks happy.
Right.
And I'm with you. I can't put a lot of stock in what happened last night because it is the Knicks. They came in 5-5. And yet, Kevin looked like he was reborn all of a sudden with a whole new spirit, like he was sort of released. And I'm not underestimating the fact that there was no Kyrie because, remember, Kevin wanted out from under Kyrie. Yeah. He went to the mat on that one. He went so far as to say, okay, if you won't let me out this way, well, then how about this? Either those two go or I go.
Right.
You know, I don't want the GM or the coach.
Right.
That's how bad it got. But who he didn't want in the end was his former best friend.
Right.
I'm sick and tired. He wouldn't get vaccinated. He's an issue. He's a problem. I want out. Well, all of a sudden, he's out because of a very controversial post by Kyrie Irving. And then now here we go. So if you put Kevin on a lie detector right now, he might tell you, you know what? I'm just happy without him. I'm good to go without him. The problem becomes, how good could they be without Kyrie? Well, could they make the playoffs? I think they could make the playoffs. Yeah, I think they can make the playoffs,
but Skip, even with Kyrie, I don't think they can beat Boston.
No.
I don't think they can beat Boston. Boston's loaded. Those two young guns, JT and Jaylen Brown, Skip, they playing out of their minds this year. They got Malcolm Brogdon. And this is what I said all along. And shut up, Shannon. Basketball, you talking basketball. I said, now you have a guy in a true point guard where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown doesn't have to make it offense and create for everybody else. He can get them the ball, make a play. Instead of them trying to create, because that's not what they are. They're scorers. And he gives them the ball in position where they can score.
Yep.
And you look at the way they're playing now, both of those dudes are going to get it. That's not a knock on Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart has his place. He's a defensive-minded guy. He can make a big shot here or there, but he's not a point guard. That's not what he is. He's not Malcolm Brogdon, and they're playing well. I don't believe Brooklyn can beat them. I don't believe when Chris Middleton gets back, they're not seeing Milwaukee.
Okay. Right now, I think they're playing to show the world that they're going to be okay without Ime Udoka, who gave them a whole different defensive mindset last year. And he was just what the doctor ordered for that group last year.
Right.
I remain an Ime fan. Obviously, we didn't discuss this, but the early reports were just runaway that he was about to become the Nets' new head coach.
I think they was getting enough fire from in one direction. They didn't want to take on the fire from another direction.
Well, they were getting the Kyrie fire, and then he was just too hot to handle at this point. And obviously, he made a mistake that Boston considered a huge mistake, broke a rule that everybody has internally. He violated to the extent that they just said, you are gone for the year or really indefinitely.
Yeah.
And it's very possible that there's no way he would ever return to coach the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
So would he have been a good fit for this team? I believe he'd been a great fit because I'm a big fan of his, but I always was for all those years he sat next to Popovich.
Yeah, what we might be seeing in Boston is that you remember how Mark Jackson came in, established the culture, they played defense.
I agree.
He lost his
Steve took it over. Yep. That's a good analogy. I would agree. He taught them how to play defense just the way Mark taught them how to win basketball games.
They play defense, and now these two young guys. Now, remind you, their best defensive player, Robert Williams, well, Marcus Smart, they really can anchor a defense. So now you still have that defensive mindset, and you got these two young guys.